Welcome to the UN Brief. We interviewed Ambassador Marc Finaud, currently head of Arms Proliferation Affairs at the Geneva Center for Security Policy. We spoke about the current situation in Ukraine and the nuclear threat and what does that mean. So he gives us a masterclass on everything that's happening at the moment and what are the consequences and the challenges ahead. Thank you for watching the UN Brief, and don't forget to subscribe. Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency said on Friday that he was ready to go to Ukraine to make sure that the nuclear sites were going to be protected according to the treaties and accords that were made between countries. And then President Macron of France said today, again, that he had a discussion yesterday with President Putin, that he was also very concerned with securing these sites, these nuclear sites in Ukraine. So what is your take? How worried should we be that we need to advance that and have people on the ground actually making sure that the sites are secure?
Yes, well, as you said, these sites are completely prohibited as targets. This is in international law, in the Geneva Convention. So, Russia is bound by this obligation not to target these sites because of the potential consequences for civilians, for populations. It's not so much the question of targeting nuclear reactors, because normally they are protected under lots of concrete against any crash of big aircraft. Or the problem is everything that could be surrounding the reactors, like securities, electrical systems that are required to make sure that the plant continues to function, that there are sort of backup electrical systems if the normal power grid is cut off.
Right, if the power grid is cut off, what happens? Are there systems?
Yes, well, there is a risk. The way these systems function, they need a permanent flow of water to cool the reactor, the rods of uranium, and when these fuel rods are taken out of the reactors for cooling, they are placed in cooling pools, and these cooling pools are normally not under protection. So if they are targeted or victim of some leak or accident, the rods can then become very dangerous without coolant. And that's why that's what happened in Chernobyl, and you can have all sorts of reactions of melting and explosion and dissemination of radioactive material. So this is what explains why these sites need to be protected. Now there are, of course, if you take this situation from a rational point of view, it would not make any sense for Russia to provoke these accidents if it wants to control the country, maintain the country. Of course, it will also need electricity for its needs, for its occupation. Of course, it could make sense for Russian troops to occupy and take control of these sites, and also use them as a shield, not to be attacked.
Right. That's the conversation that has been going on social media today, right? There were commentators, analysts that were saying precisely that they were using perhaps this as so they could penetrate this site and stay there and use it as a shield, again, as a deterrent of certain actions. Well, which again is super crazy, because when you think about it, something could happen accidentally.
Exactly.
These sites should be completely off limits, right?
Yes.
And there are provisions in these treaties, right? In the international Geneva Convention, rules of war.
Like dams, or dikes, chemical facilities, anything that is, is handling the dangerous material that could hurt the civilian population.
So another question is related to the conference on disarmament, in which you are participating, representing the Security Center in Geneva, right? Which you are responsible precisely for the negotiations at this high-level body of the UN. And I was interested because there are so many negotiations parallel, as you're saying, depending on how the General Assembly sets up the agenda, and then the work program is decided by countries. Regarding lethal autonomous weapons systems, because there was conversation last year during the General Assembly that some of these weapons were already available and were being tested and used in warfare. So is the conference on disarmament the place to be discussing that as well?
It could, but there's already another framework, which is the Convention on Certain Conventional Weapons, CCW, because this convention is like an umbrella convention with several additional protocols. So the rule is if you join the convention, you need to ratify at least 2 of the 5 protocols. But so a number of countries have ratified all of them, some only 2 or 3, etc. And this is used as a framework for a group of governmental experts who's been discussing already for a number of years this issue, and that only so far has managed to find consensus on some very general principles about human control of autonomous weapons. But there is a large disagreement. There are lots of divisions among the participants between those who believe that it's now time to negotiate a new treaty and put into place very clear restrictions about the use of these weapons or even their development. And those who, like the big powers, the technologically advanced countries that say, no, we can't stop technological progress, and autonomy can have some advantages. We cannot
like cleaner warfare, that we will be able to respect the Geneva Conventions because it will be precisely targeted at military facilities, not at civilians. But again, there is the issue of accidents and so forth. And if there is machine learning involved, as you know, then it takes over at one point, right, the system.
Exactly.
So
that's why, there is the same process as the one that took place for anti-personnel landmines. The ICRC initiated some international discussions and studies by experts, including military experts. And they came up with this conclusion that it was impossible to regulate the use of landmines and protect civilians at the same time. So the only solution was to eliminate them. So that was this sort of motto: if you can't regulate, eliminate. And that the same conclusion was applied later to cluster munitions, because when they don't explode, they remain as anti-personnel landmines, and they can have the same effect on people. So that's why there was the treaty, Oslo Convention, to prohibit and eliminate them. And then more recently, there was the same reasoning applied to nuclear weapons, because as we've seen, based on the NPT, based on the practice of nuclear powers, it would be impossible to regulate the use of these weapons because in any case, they would not be able to distinguish between civilian and military targets. So the only solution left would be to prohibit and eliminate. And so now, of course, we are stuck with these differences, these divisions, and the fact that all these treaties, landmines, cluster munitions, the Arms Trade Treaty, the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, all these treaties have been negotiated and adopted outside the CD, precisely because it was impossible to find consensus in the CD on this negotiation, because you always had one or two or several of the big powers using their vetoes, and
the P5.
Yes, and preventing any even negotiation, and even some sort of minor agreement that could have been negotiated a long time ago, like the Treaty on the Prohibition of Fissile Material for Nuclear Weapons. It's considered as mostly a non-proliferation instrument to prevent new countries to develop nuclear weapons, but the nuclear power is considered also as a disarmament treaty, because they say that over a long time, if you can't renew your stockpile of nuclear material, then you have to reduce your stockpile. And but this negotiation could not even start because there was always one or several countries that objected to starting the negotiation, like Pakistan. Pakistan says, we keep reducing fissile material because we are behind India. So we need to catch up before we can even start discussing the prohibition.
And they come here to Geneva to discuss that.
Well, it's been on the agenda. It's been on the agenda for many years, but every time there was an attempt to start negotiating a treaty, it was blocked by Pakistan, but a few others are, comfortably hiding behind Pakistan. But just to show that the CD is paralyzed because of the veto, because of the consensus. So even now, if it has agreed on reestablishing some working groups, some subsidiary groups, we know that they will not negotiate. They will continue the same discussion that we've had in the plenary meetings. They will be in subsidiary working groups and they will report, but there will not be any consensus, any agreement to negotiate new treaties.
Is there a DG for laws for lethal autonomous weapon systems?
Yes, because that's been decided by the General Assembly again.
Okay. So that's up to 25 country members that are invited, right? The P5 plus another 20.
Yes. But again, it's very split, because some countries, I would say, middle powers like Switzerland, Austria, New Zealand, they say, no, we need a treaty now. And the big powers say, no, let's continue discussing, but we can't have a treaty.
And the others, the NGOs are here too, saying, just eliminate, can't regulate.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much. A pleasure speaking to you, Ambassador Finaud. Really, indeed, a great lesson and catch up. Thank you so much, sir. Yes. And I will let you know when it's posted.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching the UN Brief, and don't forget to subscribe,